we get a live on our Facebook.
Okay.
All right, we are live now, Marta. I see it on Facebook.
Okay. Let me see if I can find it on Facebook.
I see it on Facebook. And now let's see if I can see it on YouTube. If you are here, say hi. We are trying a new system today because why not try new technology in the age of the...
Oh, yeah, I can see it on Facebook. Okay, well, now we've got a little bit of everything.
We do.
YouTube, whatever we're doing. Okay, so we're everywhere.
It's called Restream that we're on right now. Let's see. On YouTube, we are live there too.
Okay, so we're everywhere.
What'd you know? All right, 3 people are on YouTube, so people are starting to come on. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm so happy to be back. I shouldn't say I took really the last couple of weeks off, but we took the last couple of weeks off of Think About It Thursdays to allow a little bit more time. Listen, Marta, if we do this one, oh, there we go. Then we get more of the Zoom background. There's so much I can figure out now on this. Now I'm going to be obsessed trying to figure this out. If you are here, say hello. There's also a chat function somewhere. Do you see chat on your page?
I do, yeah.
Oh, here, chat. There we go. Okay, Let's see if I say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Good morning.
If people comment, to activate, please enable channels here. Uh-oh. Let's see if this works. Oy. I have to enable.
Something new.
Something new. In the meanwhile, we're going to give, as I always do, about 3 or 4 minutes for people to kind of find us. And Marta, I don't know if you want to share it on your, you could share it on your page.
I have already. No, I have.
Oh, you're ahead of me.
No, yeah, no, they know, but they found out last night when you shared it and I was on rabble rousing.
Oh, I see Robin Platt. Good morning, Robin Platt. And Jay. Hi, Jay. You guys are our very first users for this interesting
platform
that we're using. Okay, there we are. All right. Well, let's give it a few seconds. It doesn't, because if I activated chat, then we would see it all. We would see it. Just give me 1 second. Everybody, this is going to be a very interesting conversation. I already know. I just have a feeling. Enable, did I just lose you? No. If I could enable the chat, that would help. All right. Did I do it?
Yeah, I can see it down the side. I'm on the live studio. I can see it.
On the Restream, you can see the chat on the side?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You see it from other people? Okay.
Yeah, I can I can see everybody.
Oh.
I can't see them clearly unless I get right on top of it, but yeah, I can see them.
All right, so 2 minutes, 2-minute countdown. We're going to call places. It's a 2-minute countdown. I know I'm very excited to have Marta here. The image that they saved of me is not very good. Live with Marta. All right, here we go. All right, now I'm going to focus on Marta. Marta, you're saying on Restream you can see the chat on the right side?
I can see the chat.
That's so funny. I can't see it.
I have no idea why I can see it, so I'm not going to touch the screen.
I know, please don't.
That's one of those things that I'm afraid if I do anything, I won't be able to see it. I'm going to fix maybe I'll actually be able to read it if I put in some eye drops.
Oh, you know what I realized is I have the Restream chat app actually, so I might be able to see it.
Yeah, if you have it in full screen, yeah, I don't think I have it in full screen. It opened up this way and I didn't do anything to change it.
Fantastic. I'll just have to go back and forth. All right, let me just open this then. People to kind of, whoops. Okay, good morning, Helene. Good morning, Sis. Good morning, Judy Cantel. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Penny. All right, people are here. Just can't see.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone, and they're slowly coming in. All right, so Welcome, Marta. I don't even know, there's so much to learn about Marta. There's so much that I don't know. There's so much that our congregants obviously don't know. And we're just living in such an interesting era. And one of my favorite things to do is to get to know more about our congregants and just interesting people. So, Marta, what I'm going to ask you to do first, everybody, if you have questions, go ahead and you can write them in on YouTube or on Facebook. But Marta, if you can kind of introduce yourself. A lot of people know your face. You come to the Minion, you come to services, you bring your grandkids to Shabbat Spark. This is all before the era of COVID. And I know your grandkids were just getting really into services. So that's one of the very sad things. Yeah. But then again, we've connected in different ways, and we'll tell you a little bit more about what Marta has been doing, but connected in different ways, probably because of the sheltering in place orders and everything like that. So introduce yourself. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Things like that. And then kind of how your career, what do you do?
I was born in Charles City, Iowa, in a little teeny tiny town in north central Iowa. My parents, I was actually only born there because my grandfather died 3 months before I was born, and then my parents came back out here. I was raised in Southern California and raised Catholic. But when I was 7, I told my parents that I said, I'm Jewish. And they said, no, we're Catholic. And I said, maybe you're Catholic, but I'm Jewish. And this kind of went on, and nobody ever really criticized me for it, but they raised me Catholic, and I went to Catholic school, and the Catholics were very good to me. I was just never one of them. But as life goes on, you just kind of go with what you're taught. And I went to school here, and I became a journalist and worked for 45 years in TV news, and worked at KTLA, anchored the news for 25 years. Before that, I worked for CBS and 60 Minutes, and I was one of the very first women sound technicians, and traveled all over the country and did interesting things, had a fascinating career, loved every minute of it. And when I was 56, KTLA fired me because I was old. And because I don't take many things lying down, I sued them, and I settled, and I got enough to go to Paris and live for a couple of years, which was not my plan. I went for a wedding and got there and thought, no, I'll just stay. Taught at the Sorbonne and at Paris Tech for a couple of years. And then when the third grandchild was born, I thought, if I don't come back, the family will never speak to me again. So I came back, and now I am a full-time grandmother, and I'm a social media marketing specialist. And a large part of my life is Temple Emmanuel and being part of this congregation. When I was a year and a half ago, I almost died of pneumonia, and I was in the hospital for 12 days. And I thought, I don't have time for a bucket list anymore. I've done everything I want to do. And I realized that getting here was the one thing I hadn't done. So as soon as I was well enough and could breathe enough, I got myself up to American Jewish University, and Adam Greenwald, the rabbi in charge of the Miller program, pointed me to Rabbi Sarah Basson, and I took the conversion course, and on August 19th of last year, I had my Bet Din and my mikveh, and I have never looked back, and I love this community as my family. But, it just kind of all came together. And that's kind of in a nutshell who I am.
All right, we're done, right? No.
You can go home now.
So you grew up in Southern California. Yeah. I'm trying to get a picture of, what we're going to lead to a little bit is, I want to lean into a little bit of, actually, this is a question that I've been thinking about a lot. Post 2016 election, there was a lot of talk about, yes, it makes Marta not so happy, but I mean, all of us, but there was a lot of talk about censoring the news. I was wondering, with your experience in the news, did you ever have like this thought of, wow, we big networks like CNN, or did you ever believe that anyone could be censored? Where do you think we are? One of the issues that I've had is like, where are our checks and balances just in general? And I was very frightened that, there's all this talk right now that TikTok is going to be, banned or something like that. So I'd love to hear what you feel about censoring the news, and what you were thinking during that time.
I'm glad you asked. I'm deeply, deeply concerned. I'm deeply concerned about the state of our democracy. When my children were little, people would say, what do you feel is your big responsibility? And I said, to teach them to read and to ensure they are free to read whatever they choose. Our First Amendment rights are in great jeopardy. When the president calls the media the enemy of the people, we are headed towards a totalitarian country in a way that's very frightening. I think that journalists need to be protected. I have a very serious problem with what I call echo chamber news. I said in the late 90s, we were sitting around the newsroom. I said, when you have Fox News, or you even have an MSNBC, whenever you have any kind of news that takes a political stand on one side or the other, you have a very, very serious problem, because it's life in an echo chamber. You never have to hear the other side. I grew up and I presented the news in a way where you presented the facts of the day and viewers sorted it out for themselves. And I think too many people simply want to hear their own opinion fed back to them, and they never, ever, ever they don't get anything from any other source. I watch all the broadcasts. I watch and I read multiple newspapers, and I piece it together. And people say, well, reporters lie. They don't lie. They're actually trying to get to the truth of the matter. But when you have a president who will be he will be presented with a piece of videotape showing him what he said, and he will deny it. I don't hate Donald Trump. Donald Trump is doing Donald Trump. But I do not like the misrepresentation of facts. And I don't like the fact that he calls the media the enemy of the people. There was never supposed to be a friendly relationship between the media and politicians. It was also always supposed to be slightly adversarial. That's why it's called the Fourth Estate. They are supposed to be there to be a check and a balance on what's happening with our politicians. It isn't supposed to be, oh, we love you. They're supposed to be there to push back and make sure that there isn't corruption and make sure that things are being done properly. I don't think they should be attacking, and I don't think they should be sucking up to him. I think that he should be answering questions and not calling them losers if he doesn't like a question, and not calling it a nasty question if he doesn't like it. He chose the job, and he should be doing the job.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say, for people who are asking questions, people are already having questions for you. We're going to talk a little bit more, and then I'll ask. We'll kind of circle back around to questions. So feel free to maybe even write like question, and then write it, and then later on, that way it'll be easier for me to find. But so on a typical day, are you saying that you'll watch everything from Fox to MSNBC to CNN?
Every day.
Every day. And then do you believe that, it was always believed that CNN was the, average, most fair, you could say, news network. Do you still believe that? And where should we get our news is I think what I want to say to you.
I don't really know anymore. I think CNN is still probably the most fair. They're probably the fairest. The problem is that everyone has an opinion, and I grew up in an era where they weren't paying me for my opinion. And it wasn't until about a month and a half ago that I began expressing my opinion on Facebook, because my kids didn't know what my political view was. No one did. And when I decided I was never going to work at news again, I thought, okay, now I get to express my opinion, and I get a lot of pushback, and I don't care because I'm not on Facebook to be liked. So it isn't a problem for me.
So if you want to get some interesting conversation, follow Marta Waller on Facebook, because she'll post something totally innocuous and then it's like 150 comments and it explodes. And I just laugh and I write to Marta like, well, I know where I'm getting my entertainment today.
It's so innocuous, and all of a sudden I'll get to the bottom of it and I'll say, how did this happen? How did this happen? It started out as a nothing and it turns into this battle, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm out. I'm going to sleep. But the fact is that I watch everything so I can piece it together. And I do read multiple newspapers, because I don't think in television anymore, it's almost impossible. I mean, we have Russian television, and that's a mouthpiece for Putin. And I had a student, I coach people who want to work at news, and she said, oh, I've got this great offer. And I said, I'm sorry, that's where I draw the line. You cannot use me as a reference. I mean, well, why not? And I said, you know, I tend to be conservative on some issues and liberal on others. I'm an independent. I'm not registered in either party. But I will tell you, I am a very patriotic American, and I can't support that. That's a paycheck that comes directly out of the Kremlin, and I cannot support that, because you have to do what they want you to do. And I'm sorry, but you can't use me as a reference.
Right. Well, by the way, I know somebody just wrote, well, CNN isn't fair. We're not going to get into the politics of it right now. The question, it wasn't, is CNN fair? No. It was, if you are comparing an MSNBC and a Fox, you know, is
they are fairer. They are slightly more balanced, but I don't think any of them are fair. I mean, you have to understand, this is coming from someone who, I mean, I know how it operates, and no one ever told me what I could or could not say on KTLA. Never. I was never, ever.
By the way, Jay says he remembers you from KTLA. He was a big fan.
Oh, so. That's very nice.
Yeah.
But I was never told what I could say. And if I said anything, if the words came out of my mouth, I wrote them or edited them. You know, a writer may have written them, but I was never told what I could say. We were never told what we could or could not cover. I do not know what the situation is today, but I will tell you that I don't like any of what I'm seeing. I don't like it when I see a facial expression that shows pleasure or displeasure. I don't like it when I hear a vocal inflection. I just don't like it, because it's all advocacy journalism. So you have to listen to the story and pick it out, and you have to listen with your own ear.
So Sharon says, well, why do you bother to watch TV news?
I bother to watch because I want to see the video. I want to know what happened. And I know some of the people, and because I can sort a lot of the facts out. I mean, they can read me the facts. I don't have to listen to the inflection.
Right. That's
you know, I mean, I guess partially because I'm sort of a news junkie. That isn't going to go away. I mean, this is 50 years of my life.
Right.
It's not going to go away.
I might have to move my computer. I might die. I'm of the generation, I'm 35, surprise. And so in 2008, I would say when Obama was elected, I have to say, really honestly, pre-2008, people my age, we really were not into politics and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure there always are some, but when Obama got elected, I mean, when people talk about how he was able to get the next generation involved, I was hooked, and that's when I started watching the news, although really didn't start as much until, in terms of like literally having CNN or whatever on in the background all hours of the day. That didn't start until all the drama of 2016. But I think part of the issue that we have with the news, and this is social media and everything, is just the platforms are so huge that it's not like it used to be where you had your, like when I grew up, 2, 4, 5, 7, KTLA, CBS, ABC, whatever. And you would watch your favorite channel, and that's what it was. And everybody was pretty much covering the same stories. Yeah. So I'm wondering how you've seen the effect of social media on news. And do you think that's part of the issue,
Well, social media really is kind of a giant cesspool if you're not careful. And one of the real problems we have is that there was a time when to be a reporter, you had a press pass and you were credentialed, and now if you have an iPhone or a smartphone and a Facebook account or a blog, you are a journalist, and there's a lot of false information out there. And to that extent, I suppose that Trump is right. It's fake news. But when you're talking about credentialed journalists who are actually trying their best to report the news, I think that's a really bad negative thing to be saying.
I'm going to get my charger. There are 2 questions that you can answer.
Okay.
One is, some people want to say, Riddell said PBS NewsHour. I think she's saying that's more fair. Another thing was, Lydia says the news was fair when Marta was on TV.
Actually, you're right. It actually was. When the news actually started to change is when Hal Fishman died.
Oh.
And that was 13 years ago tomorrow.
Wow.
And that's when it dramatically changed. Hal was kind of the last of the last, and he demanded balance and fairness. And he was like my mentor, and I followed his footsteps, and he, we told both sides of every story, and we told them dispassionately.
Okay, so I have one question from Judy Candell.
Yeah.
And maybe you can clarify a little bit, but she wrote, will the debate moderators be true to news people? I'm going to let you talk about that for a minute while I run and get my charger. Okay. So will the debate moderators be true to news people?
I don't know, because I don't know who the moderators are going to be, and it kind of depends on who is selected. I mean, we've had some good moderators in the past, and as much as anything, they have to be people who can they're sort of like wranglers. I mean, they have to be able to control the event as well as ask good questions. So I think a lot of it is going to have to do with people who are grammar school teacher efficient and good news people. And I'm starting to wonder if there are even going to be debates. It's beginning to look to me like maybe there will, maybe there won't. And the whole landscape has changed so dramatically. But I think that, yes, they will be true news people. And we have a lot of really good news people. I'd kind of like to see Jonathan Swan from Axios be one of the moderators, because he is able to, he's not all over Twitter. He doesn't say crazy things.
Is he the one who just did that?
The HBO interview. But he's able to maintain calm. He doesn't get all excited, and he is extremely well prepared. I kind of don't think that'll happen. But I don't even know who's in the running to be a moderator. And it bothers me when they simply pick people for their Q rating, which is how visible they are, or for their looks, or those things trouble me. So I don't even know who's in the running for it. So I don't know.
That's where, you talked about definitely the effect of social media. Also, I just want to add to it that I didn't even think about the angle that anybody can be a news reporter these days, which is definitely an issue. Yeah. I have to tell you, there's a company called Converge Media. It's not even a company, it's a man. And he was on the streets in Portland for the entire, still every night, right? And he basically, he covered the footage, the protests on the front line with his camera, right? And he took I loved it because to me, it was like he would go up to police officers and interview them. He would interview people on the street. He was really right there in a different way than someone with a large camera or a satellite truck or something like that could be. And he makes a living doing that. And literally there's a little thing that says PayPal to, Converge Media. And I did actually. I made a donation. I was like, thank you for being on the lines, because after I had watched him for 3 nights in a row, I was like, this is someone I should support, because he was showing the facts. He was also talking to people on all sides of the issue. They ended up getting an interview with the mayor because of the work he was doing. So that was one thing. The other thing, though, is that because of social media, the same news clips can be played hundreds of thousands of times over and over and over again. So it's not like what it used to be, which is, this is for TV and everything too, but literally news has become entertainment.
Yeah. That started, you have to understand, that actually started in the early 70s when TV stations started to realize they could monetize news. It was cheap to produce. People would watch it. And then they started expanding it and expanding it and expanding it. And one of the problems is if you have an hour of news to fill, that's a lot to fill. 10 seconds is a long time. So I produced the news at KTLA on the weekends with one reporter, and it was an hour newscast and a 15-minute sportscast. So I had 45 minutes. And then even when you took out the commercials, trying to fill that news hole was a real challenge. And I would sit there and I'd go, and it was soul crushing some days. And now you figure they have 24 hours and they're just shoveling in anything they can get because they have to fill the time. So it's cheap to produce, but then you're getting the same garbage over and over and over again.
And you can't just rely on, there's not enough facts to share for 24 hours. So that's what you get.
No. Yeah, you're just replaying the same thing over and over again. And I think that's part of why we have become very immune to violence, police brutality. We've become immune to school shootings, and it's a self-perpetuating problem. And as good as the idea may have been, the execution has been terrible. I don't think it has helped. And then social media I'm a big fan of social media. I'm an early adopter. I have everything. I love all of it, but I also see the really dark side of it. And I think we have to be careful how we use it. I mean, it has brought us together, and the temple is a great example. I'm more connected during the pandemic than I was before with the temple because of the enormous effort the clergy has put into seeing to it that we are not isolated. And that's one of the huge upsides. The downsides are some of the really ugly vitriol that's out there. So it's on us not to fall into that. But it's also on us to sort through what's going on in terms of news and to educate ourselves, to know how our government works. I mean, I'm the person who says, do not complain at me if you don't like the way the election turned out, if you haven't voted in every election, because it's the grassroots, it's these little local elections that ultimately determine your presidential election. So, if somebody says, well, I voted in 2016, it didn't turn out the way I liked it, so my vote doesn't count. I mean, that makes my teeth hurt.
Right. So much. Okay, a couple questions.
Yes.
Riddell Simon says, well, first of all, Lydia says the Biden and Trump debate will be the best show ever. I can't wait to see it. Who will win the debate? But then Riddell Simon says, what do you think the benefit of even having the debates is?
I don't think there's any benefit. I think it's going to be two old guys standing up there arguing to see who can prove who has the least cognitive ability. And I don't think I don't think a debate serves any purpose at all. None. I think that I don't think it is going to be productive in the least. We all know the positions both of them have, and that's where social media has come in. What do I think the debate? No, I think that there's absolutely no value in a debate. None.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to change anyone. I mean, this is what the news has been saying. I mean, the news. So when I say this, I don't know what I mean by when I say the news, but there has been a lot of talk about what are the changes that might happen even in the next just couple of months. Are people really going to change their mind? I just don't believe that there's anything that can be done on either side. I mean, they talked about what they call it, the October surprise. What is on both sides of the parties? What is anybody going to pull out that all of a sudden changes people to, I also wish that we lived in a world where you could vote on issues, not on a person.
I agree. I mean, we need another surprise with flying snakes. I mean, we need another surprise. I don't see the value I do not see the value in a debate, in any debates, but that's just my personal opinion and partially because I watch everything and I look at everything and, I just don't see it. It's a lot of finger pointing and name calling. I don't think it will be anything substantive.
Interesting. Okay, do we have any more questions? All right. Well, we know, first of all, if you want to have some entertainment, also Jay says he would like to see Lester Holt maybe be one of the
yes, Lester is brilliant. I mean, he would be an excellent moderator should they go forward with a debate. He'd be an excellent. Now, I do have another opinion. Okay. I think that for Trump to say, well, I'm just going to accept my party's nomination at the White House, legal or not legal, I think that it is just poor show of form. I just think it's very poor form. He needs to just go off campus. I mean, nothing has stopped him going off campus for anything else. Walk across the street, but don't do it in the Rose Garden or in the White House. It just doesn't look good.
Yep, I don't think he cares. All right, so first of all, if you have any more questions, keep putting them in. Otherwise, I want to pivot to a little bit about your Judaism. I mean, you've already talked about, how you've been able to stay connected. I want to say that I, towards the beginning, talk about, all of us, temples, I'm sure every place was like, oh man, all of our congregants are going to be sitting at home doing nothing, right? Because nobody knew what to expect. But on a serious level, we took it as a chance to say, we want to be there providing meaningful content because we knew that it would be very easy, and many people have, to fall into the binge watching, just like laying on your couch. I still have yet to get to that point. I'm waiting for the day where I can lay on the couch and just binge watch something. But we really did take on the responsibility of providing what we would hope would be spiritual, meaningful content and educational. So we just started the Hebrew Boot Camp. And this is just a funny thing of how things change, but Marta had joined our adult B'nai Mitzvah class we were going to do it in January. To tell you the truth, this year was supposed to be our off year because I've done it every single year since I've been at the temple. But there were a lot of people who wanted to start with the Hebrew. So we started it. It really was just hard because nobody's schedules could line up, except for Marta. Marta was always there. So then it was interesting when we got to the pandemic and we started Tuesday, Thursday Hebrew Boot Camp. And it was Marta, a lovely man named Jay from Tennessee, and two younger kids and some other people that would come in and out. And I found it to be one of the most just where technology meets education. And Marta saw me discovering the technology as we went around, like, oh my gosh, we had slides for everything and we shared it. But talk a little bit about, now that you talked about your conversion, and then Rabbi Bassam was your sponsor, and then that's how you got to Temple Emmanuel. So where do you see your position now at Temple? What are you looking forward to? Well,
I'm B'nai Mitzvah, eventually we'll get that far. And it was interesting because I'd been taking the Hebrew 1 up at AJU, and then I switched over, and I've learned more faster in the online class than I did going once a week and sitting in person. This has been, I was very much surprised that the online learning platform has been so rewarding.
The next week, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Next Tuesday. I know. I know. I'm trying to keep up with my calendar, but it has been so rewarding, and I have been so. I was so surprised, and it's something I very much look forward to. And as arguably the oldest in the crowd, it's a challenge. I mean, it has definitely been a challenge, but I have found it to be. I don't know, it's very uplifting, even on the days when it's like, oh man, I've got to do this at 3:30, but it goes by so quickly, and I have enjoyed it enormously. And, it's sort of, and I think I said this in an email to you, this is so interwoven into the fabric of who I am. I can't find a beginning date anymore. I can't define it by a date. It's just as if I was always here. And I know there's a beginning date, and I can find it in a calendar, but I can't, it's almost like having a child and saying, I don't remember when they weren't part of my life. It is so overwhelming. I almost don't have words to describe it. What I see as my place is to be here and be active and be part of the community. I am never at a loss for words. And this is something I almost cannot express. It is so important to me. I lost my partner of 6 years to cancer in May, and this is something I pretty much had to do alone. And yet I have not felt alone. And otherwise, I would have been very much adrift. And it's a feeling of community that exists even when you're distanced. And that's a huge tribute to the clergy, to the minion, because that's where my real connection is. And it's a tribute to what you have all done and to the acceptance I received when I walked in the door. I mean, it wasn't, and it was, at first it was like, okay, well, who is this person? But it wasn't like a year-long journey to acceptance. It was acceptance. And I cannot even begin to tell you how thankful I am, because it doesn't happen every day.
Well, first of all, thank you for your kind words. And I will also say, we're so grateful to have you, and so many people that watch these programs and just participate. Like when I'm sitting on the Bima doing services and I'm able to see, oh, Marta's there and Sharon's there and all these people are there, it helps me too, right? Because otherwise I talk about an echo chamber, I'm singing myself. So this community, I would agree, like what I've seen is we have hundreds of people that are watching Shabbat and spreading the Shabbat joy, and we would not be the Temple Emmanuel community without people like you. And when we do conversion blessings in the mikvah, often my prayer is, may you continue to be a light upon our people, because we need renewal. If we didn't have people who chose Judaism, I think things would get a little bit more boring, they'd get boring and monotonous.
Yeah.
So lost YouTube. YouTube went out. That's
no.
So it looks like people are there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we do have a couple questions. Actually, Sharon. Okay. So I thought Judy had asked this earlier too. You guys are asking the same question. Hold on, which is, did you know a lot of Jews when you were 7?
I can tell you exactly what happened. We moved to Woodland Hills. The neighbor on the right was Mormon. The neighbor on the left was Jewish. Debbie and I became very good friends. I walked into her house, I had dinner, and I thought, this is where I belong. I was that simple. Now, it was literally that simple. I just knew. It wasn't like a big mystery. I just knew. And even my kid, and I have to tell you, when my kids were in high school, they went to a Catholic girls' high school, their choice. And it was a school that was extremely progressive. My younger daughter, the youngest of the three, her Jewish friend went to that school because it was the best school in the area. And the sisters who ran the school, whenever there would be a holiday or anything, had Ella do everything in Hebrew and explain to the students where the roots of the celebration. So the girls had a really strong foundation. I had done a number of stories actually with Chabad on Santa Monica Boulevard and was friends with the rabbi, and we were invited to his house a number of times, and the girls went with me. They had always been exposed. I made sure my kids were exposed. Two of my grandchildren are Jewish, so as Lizzie knows, and when I lived in Paris, I called my daughter, my Lizzie, and said, if you can get to Paris, I'll take you to Israel. And we went and spent 3 weeks in Israel. And as we were leaving, I was looking out the window and I get this tap on my shoulder. And, Mommy? And I didn't say anything. She says, Mommy, are you crying? And I said, yes. And she said, don't worry, Mommy, you'll get back. We'll get back and we'll get you back here. And that's who I am. And I just knew.
Did you, because of your Jewish friend back then, do you remember like attending any, Passover or Shabbat or that?
Well, I would go to the house, but not, we all went to Mormon, the middle of the week Mormon stuff, the three of us, and they would all come to church, and then we would all go to Shabbat. Oh no, the three of us went everywhere. And so we had exposure to everything. And my parents were, I guess you could describe them as crazy bohemians. They allowed us to be exposed to everything. Right. Which I think is truly a good thing. I think that kids need to know that there's a big world out there.
So your parents didn't, in your feeling, it sounds like very much you felt at home in Judaism. That's kind of your very first memory, was just feeling like, oh, this is
where I belong. Yeah.
It's a part of me.
Yeah. Where I belong.
Well, first of all, I want to say we really have been trying to plan a trip to Israel with the temple. So that sounds like an amazing thing that we could do post-pandemic. Seems like the perfect thing to do.
Yeah, let's all just go.
All go to Israel. Although they're not doing so well with the COVID right now, or with their politics right now. So
no, I was going to say, it just sounds like a real dream vacation.
We'll just go to the beaches.
Yeah.
Let's see. Does anybody have any other questions? We typically, we can go another few minutes. We can go 15 more minutes. We can also just say thank you. And
we have to talk about flying, that I got to fly in an F-16. That's what we have to talk about.
Right. Oh, yeah. And actually, I had another question. But so talk about your F-16.
That's without question the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life. Most exciting.
We were talking with Rabbi Lutz on Thursdays. Yes. Okay. So tell us this story.
Well, every now and then the media gets to go on these flights, and I used to do the countdown to the Rose Parade for KTLA every year for like 17 years. And it's a 2-hour show before the Rose Parade. And the producers, a friend of mine, came and said, how would you like to fly with the Thunderbirds? Because we're doing, and he didn't know how to finish the story. And there was a fire in La Cañada on like December 18th or 17th. And I'm looking out the window at this fire, and I'm on the phone doing a phone interview with KTLA. And, there are Christmas presents and the whole 9 yards. And I said to the kids, you put every Christmas present in the back of that 4Runner. You get the kitty crates ready, and you have the dog leashes ready. I'm going over to the Air Force Base. I'm going on F-16. I don't care what you have to do. We had the last flight out in the morning because it was so windy. I mean, it was so bad. The wings of the Southwest jet were flapping. And I'm thinking, I don't care. Just get me there. And it was unbelievably exciting. And, you know, nobody gets to do that. Nobody. I mean, it's very, very restricted. And you go down the list and you never get to do it again.
Was it scary?
I'm not afraid of anything. So the short answer is no. But yes. And they put barf bags in the flight suit, and then they're all excited. And you get out, and he pulls it out. And he says, "Look, she didn't throw up." And they tell you very funny stories. You know, Dan Marino got so sick and threw up so much they had to bring him back. But men, interestingly, men get sick more often than women.
It's happening with COVID too. I hate to tie it to that, but it's true.
Women are just basically stronger, but that's, you know, I mean, we have babies, so what can I say? That was abs. I have a model of an F-16.
Wow.
And I gave the flight certificates I gave to my first grandson because he's like all into this stuff. So he has a couple of flight certificates, you know, one that says the certification and one from, you know, all the pilots. It was the most exciting thing I've ever done. I'm realizing I think we're gonna have to do a part 2 where we just talk about the craziest things you went through as a reporter. Because I'm sure that we could probably fill an hour of that. I don't know. We've got to think about that. But Nancy has a big question going back to when you were talking about being terminated and ageism, let's say. Nancy says we're more stoic, by the way, when it comes to like in general, when it comes to throwing up on airplanes. True.
She said, do you believe you would have been terminated from KTLA today for the sin of being in your mid-50s? Has there been progress regarding broadcast news and ageism?
Well, there were a couple of things going on. I mean, I was paid a lot of money, and Sam Zell had bought the company. He wanted to reduce expense, and they could pay a lot of people for what they were paying me. They wanted to pay fewer people. I pay less. And he didn't know anything about news at all. He's a real estate person. And he wanted to come in and make money, and he took Tribune into bankruptcy 12 months after he took over. And I believe that was his plan before he ever bought the company, because you can't put that into motion unless you've already laid out the groundwork. And they don't fire old people much anymore. I think that my action probably pretty much put a stop to that. And I'm very happy I did what I did. A lot of people said, well, you shouldn't do that. You'll never work in news again. And I said, well, I'm not going to work in news again anyway. And I truly, when I said that, like, was it scary? No, I'm not afraid of anything. And I just figured I'll reinvent myself, because the job didn't define me. I defined myself. So, you know, losing the paycheck was a real blow, but the job didn't define me. And I'm still wash my own toilets, and I washed my own toilets when I had the job. And
I don't. I hire some. No.
Yeah, and I was fortunate enough to be able to get my kids all a really good education, and that was the whole point behind it. I did exciting, wonderful things. I think that there isn't, well, yeah, I do think there's ageism. There are a handful of women who are still working as they get older, but all you have to do is look at Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, and you can see the discrepancy between men and women. And men get older.
And older men are working longer than women.
But I'll tell you an interesting thing. When Stan Chambers died, and he was an icon in Los Angeles, and I absolutely adored him. And KTLA had not spoken to me for years. And I had moved to, I'd settled and I moved. And I was on the phone with my brother, and he said, Stan is dying. You have to come back for the funeral. And it's like Thursday morning in Paris. And I said, but Marshall, the funeral is tomorrow. I have 2 classes, I have midterms, and I can't afford to come back. And I'm on Expedia looking, and he said, you have to come back. Have someone else do the midterms. And I said, I can't do that. They're in person, they're oral. And while we were talking, I found a round trip flight from Paris, nonstop, Air France, for $700.
for the next day, for the same
For
day.
that night at
Wow.
7:30. And I said, okay, I can do it. And I went to school. I did my midterms. I came back. I colored my hair because I knew I'd be judged. I got to the airport. I flew in. My ex-husband picked me up at the airport. I slept really fast and I went to the funeral. It was surreal. I mean, I adored Stan. All of a sudden, this reporter from KTLA, whom I did not know, comes up and throws his arms around me and says, Marta Waller, it's such an honor to meet you. And I'm thinking, I must really be jet lagged. And he said, we need to have a soundbite from you. And that was great. I mean, I did the soundbite. Later in the afternoon, I called my attorney and I said, hi. And he said, well, where are you? And I said, I'm here in Studio City. And I said, well, this is just proof that men get old and decrepit and moldy and they keep their jobs and women get fired. And he was very, very quiet. And he said, no, Marta, this is just proof that men get old and stagnate and never move on. And you got an exciting new life.
Wow.
And that totally shut me up. I thought, you know what? He's right. I don't want to be there anymore anyway.
Right.
So I went out and reinvented myself. And
so tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing today.
Well, I'm a full-time grandmother, as anybody who knows me knows, because I never shut up about those kids, and I never expected to be thrilled about it. Wyatt is just turned 6 in May. Rosie will be 4 on the 21st of this month, and Kingston will be 6 at the end of October. And I just am crazy about all 3 of them. And I do social media marketing, and I generally represent medical people, and I only represent people I like. I don't work with anyone I don't like because I'm too old and I don't have to.
Meaning explain what that means. You're helping doctors with their social media presence?
Yeah, and I have a partner who builds websites and then does SEO for them, and so we use social media, and we do social media and we integrate it with their SEO so that
sounds like the temple could use your help.
I can help you. I can, Dan. I will help you. That's my gift. You can have anything you want. I'm in. Tell me what you need and we'll do it.
I will.
And we produce content, and we produce video content, and we produce written content.
Yeah. So sounds like the temple could use. Oops, sorry. There you go.
I can do anything. Anything you need, you pick up the phone or you send me an email, and I will do anything you need. Okay.
I'm going to ask one last question. First of all, is there anything? Think about if there's anything else you'd like to share. I don't think there's any more questions, but this is a question that I just forgot to ask earlier, which is in general about newscasters. You could call our anchors.
Mm-hmm.
Or what do you think the biggest misnomer is about that person that you see? I'm actually talking about the news anchor on KTLA who's out and about doing stories, at the food bank.
Reporters.
Yeah, reporters. Yeah. So what do you think? What I think as a kid, I thought that there were scripts written for all these people. So what is the biggest misnomer about these kind of field reporters? And I guess what I'm really trying to say is, are these the most true journalists who are finding the stories? And has that changed with social media?
Well, no, I think it's probably a harder job today than it used to be, because they do have to, not only do they have to do the job, they have to get it onto social media as well. So they're multitasking at all times. Reporting it's a gratifying job, but it is very, very hard. And I did it for years. I wasn't just anchoring. I was reporting and anchoring. I am a producer and a writer and a reporter, and I've been a sound technician, and I've been an assignment editor. I did all of it. I didn't just go directly to reporting. And if you ever had a tour of a newsroom, you'd look at it and say, after walking all the way through this, it's a miracle anything ever gets on the air. There's a lot of places where it can fall apart, but reporters are the ones who are in the trenches. I mean, the anchors A lot of anchors do write their own material, but a lot of it is written for them, and a lot of them don't read it before it goes on the air, which is obvious because you can see how they read it, that they've never seen it before. Right. But reporters, they work really hard, and they really are trying very hard to get it right. So if you step past the anchor and you watch the reporter in the field, that's really a good, accurate representation of what's happening in the world. So I frequently don't listen so much to the anchor, but I do want to hear what's happening in the field. You know, Christiane Amanpour was just a brilliant war reporter, a brilliant war correspondent. And I look at the people who are out in the field, the reporters, the correspondents, they work incredibly hard. And they are, I mean, these are the journalists that I am so concerned about protecting.
Yeah.
We absolutely have to protect our First Amendment.
All right.
And I realize I lack passion, but I'll work on that.
Oh, yeah. If you lack passion. Can you give us one last reflection of the times before we log off?
Yeah, well, I have two reflections. As my grandson has said, you get what you get and you don't get upset. And my second reflection is, and I've learned this through Torah study, is that the studying of texts, where we are in the desert right now. And through all of this study, I've come to the conclusion that we're learning from the past how to get through the present. And how we get through the present is, those are the breadcrumbs we're leaving for the people who follow us. And how we handle this is everything. You know, it's not the hand, it's how you play it. And we are being helped tremendously by all of you and by the support we give everyone. I trust science, and I totally trust the Minion.
Amen. Everybody, thank you so much. Marta, I can't thank you enough for just being a part of this community and being willing to sit here and share your thoughts today. Mm-hmm. Hopefully you won't get any negative press.
Well, if I do, I do. But thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
And I'm just letting everyone know, next week we will have another congregant, Dr. Michelle Kalt. Michelle is a kind of on the front lines of the pandemic. She's a cardiologist at Kaiser. Everyone, you'll all recognize Michelle. Michelle has the big red hair. She's in our choirs and stuff like that, and she's very fun. And yet, I think we'll have a lot to say about what is happening with just on the front lines. So that's next week at 10 a.m. Marta, I'm going to stay on here for a minute, but let's wave bye and see if this works. Thank you.